So I've got a couple of minutes that AirTight has asked me to share with you guys some of the projects that we're working on. And first off, to start off, my name is Drew Lentz. I've got a handle that I started to tweet with a couple of years ago to keep it anonymous. So basically, I could say bad things about vendors when I worked for a distributor, and they wouldn't penalize me for it. So truth be told, that's how Wireless Nerd started. And since then, I've had a lot of fun with it, you know, and it's given me a very centered way to compare vendors and talk about multiple manufacturers. I do not work for AirTight. I'm a VAR integrator in South Texas. I've worked for a number of different distributors as well as manufacturers and integration and consultant firms. And just recently, we decided to kick it off and start up our own firm down in South Texas. And we've had a lot of fun doing it. And AirTight has been a great feature of that. So I'll start in. We've got I've got this on SlideShare. So if you guys want to join in on SlideShare, there's a link down there on the bottom. I've got click to tweet enabled on those. So there's hashtags. There's gonna be little hash nuggets up on the top right-hand corner of it. So if you guys want to go to that, it's bit.ly/WFD7-wireless nerd. WFD7 was taken. Any takers? No? Yes, no? You may move forward. Excellent.
Got it. Thanks.
So I was asked to talk a little bit about me. That's me. I've done a couple of presentations here and there, and I've spoken at a number of different shows and whatnot, but at the end of the day, one of the reasons I really wanted to step out and do my own thing is I like getting my hands dirty. And this is a Uni Wi-Fi deployment we did down in South Texas, and that's one of the oldest hotels in the state. And my background isn't, you know, it's on the analytics side of understanding how these things work and why they work and what goes into a network and building out wireless ISPs and building out networks. And now I haven't lost touch with that. I do a lot of the installs. You know, the insurance guys love me because I do a lot of our own installs just because I really like being involved as much as you all do. And so that's who I am. I want to talk to you about the relationship that I have with AirTight Networks and how it started. And it started with Wireless Field Day 6. It started last year with you guys sitting here, hammering these guys with questions, me watching from my little house in McAllen, saying, man, that sounds like a pretty cool product. That sounds like something I'd like, you know, that I would be interested in working with. And after the presentations were done, I jumped on the web and I ordered an access point and got the C55 sensor. And it showed up and it sat on the floor of my office for about 3 months. And I didn't touch it. I didn't use it. I always had the intention of using it, but I never did. And it wasn't until one day that I got a phone call from a restaurant down in South Texas that said, hey, our AP went out, can you come put something in, but don't go crazy? That I said, sure, let me crack this thing open and see what I can do with it. I figured this is a perfect time to demo this AP. And once I installed it, I got on the cloud service. If you haven't used these before, very easy to configure. You jump on the cloud service, you set it up. Now with Insta Wi-Fi, that was pretty sweet. I hadn't seen that before, so I'm excited about using that app. But I set it all up and I said, okay, AP's up and running. And I started to dig through the feature set, listening to some of the things that had been talked about here at the show. And I said, you know, I could use some of this. This was a restaurant that was a pub, or is a pub. 40 beers on tap, 96 on bottle. The demographic is between, you know, 25-year-olds and 35-year-olds. And one of the biggest problems that they had, oops, there's a microphone falling out of their pocket. One of the biggest problems that they had was that no one knew the Wi-Fi password when they needed the Wi-Fi password. It was 12345678890, just like your favorite restaurant back home. And they started to get a really nice lunch crowd of people that would show up and use the Wi-Fi to conduct business, but there were only 1 or 2 people that knew that password. And finding the person that knew that password was a pain in the butt. So I looked at the social sign-on portion of it, and I've always been an advocate. You guys have followed me, you know, online. I've always been an advocate of trying to make things easier and don't reinvent the wheel. And when I saw social sign-on, I thought this is a perfect opportunity to use it in a place that people are going to take advantage of it. It's going to streamline the onboarding process. It's going to make a real nice, smooth, and easy transition for the people that are there. Instead of having to create a new key or tell them about a new SSID, we just left the network out there and let them use social sign-on. And social sign-on worked like a champ. The statistics because I know Keith's going to ask me in a second, the statistics are about the same. It's about 20%. 20% on the high side, depending on when students are in town or when they're out of town. It's 80-20. We don't force people to use social sign-on. This is a complete opt-in service. All of it's opt-in. Everything that we do is opt-in. We believe the same way that a lot of these other restaurants and eateries do, that you shouldn't penalize people just because they don't want to be a part of your loyalty program. It's just not the right thing to do. It's not my mantra, and I don't think it ever will be. So we like to set it up. If you want to sign in, that's great. If you don't want to use it, you can go ahead and click through. So that was the first thing that we did. And it went over real well. People seemed to like it. 20% of them didn't. So the next thing that we looked at was the retail analytics side of it. I was real skeptical. I had seen the presentations that were given here, and I thought, well, let me see how well it works. So I enabled retail analytics to see what it could see, basically. And I left it running, and I walked away from it, and I came back a little bit later, and I was trying to wrap my head around how it worked and what it was doing. And it delivered some information to us that was really important. Not only could it tell us when people with devices were there, how long they stayed, how often they came, if they were new or returning. It also gave me information specifically about how long they stay. And that was the one metric that popped up where we looked at it and we said, that's pretty interesting, because we wanted to gauge what the customer level was. And I've got a stat that was pretty important. The other thing that it did is it exposed the differences between point of sale transaction receipts and the number of people that you have in a store. And this is kind of a cool thing. We had a night where there were 120 some odd transactions on the point of sale system, but when you looked around, there were only like 20 or 30 people in the restaurant. And the question came up, why is that happening? Why are there only a few people in the restaurant, but the transactions are high? It's because there was someone on a beer hopping tour, and this van of people pulled up and they pounded 3 pints each and jumped in their van and they took off. And just looking at point of sale transactions doesn't tell the whole story about the facility, about the restaurant, about the business, about the club, whatever it is that it's in. And we saw that one, and we thought that was a pretty neat case study. You never really see the full picture, but this definitely opened the eyes of the restaurateurs and the even ice cream shop owners that we've worked with. So the one statistic that shot out to us was that 42% of the customers that showed up between 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. spent less than 45 minutes on site. And the reason that was interesting to us is this is a pub. People go, they have 1 or 2 beers, they maybe have 2 or 3 beers, and then they leave. 45 minutes is enough for a beer, a handshake, and a see you later. And this is how a lot of this stuff started. We wanted to wrap our hands around why that was taking place. Why were people only staying for less than 45 minutes? And what could we do to keep them there longer? Could we talk to management and have them go pester the customer every 3 minutes, pester them every 5 minutes, maybe make their experience a little bit better? Or did the problem lie within the restaurant? And if the problem lied within the restaurant, what could we do to make their customer experience so much better that they wanted to stay longer and have a different beer? So our bounce rate was through the roof. And we started to try and understand, how do you change an environment to make it more customer friendly? Why were people popping in and out? What could we do about it? How can we make this better overall, but without being intrusive? We don't want to bother the customers. We don't want to ask them why they're leaving. We just want to make it better for them overall. And so we sat around and we drank a bunch of beer and we came up with this concept. But before I talk about the concept, I want to talk about the social contract that takes place here, because this is a fun topic. When we use social sign-on to allow people to onboard onto our network, they allow us certain privileges. Some places ask for your birthday, some places ask for your email address, some people ask for more. They ask for what your hometown is, what football teams you like. And the whole purpose of these social media accounts and the social media connectivity is to share information. I like to share information about what I like with my friends and my family. And so we thought, as a business, what if that contract existed between the customer and the business? What if the business was able to see that? What if the customer was willing to share that information for whatever reason? And we said, you know what? Let's tap into that. It could possibly and potentially create a great experience that made it easier for us to cater to our customers, while at the same time making it happy, making it a happier environment for them. If they don't want to share information, that's fine. If they just want to click through and go on ahead, that's great. But for those that do, let's look at what we can do with that. Have you ever sat in your garage and rocked out to a song, right? It's the last 2 minutes, it's the drum solo and Phil Collins or what it is, and you're jamming out and you just can't turn off the ignition to get back into the real world. You got to wait like those extra 30 seconds for the song to finish. And you're just headbanging away and having a great time. Maybe you haven't. I have. And we said, what if we could replicate that experience at a bar with a beer that's only half full? What if we could play the right song at the right time that would allow you to sit there and finish your beer and maybe order another one? And so we came up with this application, and it's called Scrape. And what it does is exactly what you think it does. When we use our social media network, or when a customer uses their social media network to sign on, what we do is we ask them for certain privileges. We say, do you mind sharing your playlist with us? Do you mind sharing what music you listen to on Spotify, Last.fm, Pandora? Would you share that with us? And they say, yeah, why not? Some people have said no. They've actually said, no, I just want to sign on and use the social sign-on, but I don't want to share it. That's fine. But for those that do, it gives us the capability to change things, to play things for them. Our goal was that if we could collect that data that was given to us, that we could play one of your favorite songs within the first 15 minutes of you walking in the door. And so it started as a couple of pints of an idea going, man, could we do this? Is this even possible? And so I said, all right, what do you do next? Well then, what if Keith likes Led Zeppelin? And what if Kostub likes Tupac? What are you going to play? And so we started to look at ways that we could combine this. And I don't know if you guys have heard of the Music Genome Project, but we started to look at the Music Genome Project, and we thought, man, that's pretty cool. Essentially what it does is if one of you likes AC/DC and one of you likes Garth Brooks, it plays, anyone? Wild guess?
No idea.
Kid Rock. Country, rock and roll.
Oh, heavens.
A little bit of both.
Sonny and Cher.
Interesting, right? But that's what it does, right?
I thought it was going to be Donnie Marie, but
Yeah. Well, but I'm just saying. It's an example. We did Biggie Smalls and Vivaldi, and it played Jay-Z because Jay-Z has an album with a symphonic band in the background, and so it was like, okay, I can see how you got there. So the goal was to set that up so within 15 minutes you could hear a song you like. And here's how it worked. And this calls the web, this is why I'm here, right? This calls the web API features of the AirTight device and GMS into play specifically. The user access point, they see the SSID, they're greeted with the sign-in page that gives them the option to sign in with Facebook. They hit Facebook, they authenticate with Facebook, it takes them through to the splash page. At the same time, there's a call made to Scrape. And Scrape goes in and it checks the permissions of what we have access to, and it requests that information, in this case song files or plays or likes of bands. And it takes that data and it sets it into a data set and it combines it with what everyone else in the restaurant likes at the time. And then it uses the Spotify API to kick off a radio station. Now, another important feature of this is that the OAuth key that we use to hit the Open Graph API on Facebook, we only use it during the session. If you leave and you come back, we hit it again, we ask for that authorization again to scrape it, because if you come in December and you're jamming out to Christmas music and you come in July, you don't want to hear Christmas music. You want to hear whatever you're listening to. Go for it.
So is this assuming that your Facebook profile somehow is tied into whatever your online listening music preferences are?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and if there's any bands that you like, if you've liked the band, if you say, yes, I like that band, then it can use that information as well. So you don't have to tie anything in. I ran that with my wife. She doesn't listen to anything, but she loves Prince. So we hear Prince. So that's how it works. Go ahead.
Quick question. So someone gives you their Spotify, Pandora playlist. How long would it take before you analyze that information and they would actually hear a song on their list?
I'll show you.
Okay. All right. I'll wait.
Boy, am I glad you asked. Fancy that. Anyway. So that's what we did, and we thought, oh, that's pretty cool, man. I think it's pretty cool. It's a weird take on technology, but again, nerds being nerds, this is the kind of stuff you come up with. You sit around and you go, man, I could use technology to change this. But now what we've done is we've layered it. We solved a problem with social Wi-Fi, or we solved a problem with sign-on. We went to social Wi-Fi, and then now we're using that information. The retail analytics are what drove that, because we saw a dip in the traffic, and we thought, how do we fix that? It wasn't, the motive of that was, or the motive of the entire thing was to make an experience better for the customer. That's the whole point with it. So this is an opt-in service, and we're customizing and personalizing the user environment. Take a second to think about that, because that's so cool to me. I'm not saying everyone, to me. We're personalizing a user environment. And that's what we're doing, and it's really neat. And so we thought, okay, well, if we can do this for the customers, can we do this for the business? How can we make a business case out of this to where the business can become more customer friendly? So at this restaurant, there's 42 beers on tap. There's 96 on bottle. Are any of you all beer nerds? Okay. A lot of you are not beer nerds. Austin, Texas question. Fireman's 4. Real Ale. Blanco, Texas. Amazing beer. Yeah. Probably never had it because you don't know when to drink it. A lot of people walk in and they say, just give me something that tastes like Bud Light. Ooh. And so we say, you know what? Try a Fireman's 4. And they try a Fireman's 4, and then they drink Fireman's 4. Mm-hmm. If anyone from Real Ale is watching, I welcome free beer, just FYI. So it's great beer, it really is. So now we thought, we took that mentality and we said, wait a minute. If we know what people are expecting or what they're comfortable with or what they're familiar with, then how can we use that to better serve the business? So what if we ask for what your beer likes are? And we gather that information and we combine it with what we have on tap or what we have on our order list. And we say, you know what? 96% of people that are going to come to this restaurant drink Pabst Blue Ribbon. So we're going to load up a keg of PBR. Why? Because when you come in there, you're going to go, just give me a PBR. And you're going to say, have you tried this? Try this beer. And it gives them a comfort zone. It gives people the ability to come in and feel comfortable with something that they know is there. And now not only have we changed the user environment to make it more friendly to them, but now we've changed our selection to make it more friendly for them. So understanding the brands and the likes of what the customers are comfortable with gives us a way to always make sure that there's something friendly for the patrons there. I've got to move through this. So what if we could do that with something more interactive than music? What if we could recommend items to visitors based on their personal preference over and over and over again? What if we could repeat that? In the beer example, if we learned that you like Miller Lite, we could offer a Fireman's 4, but what if we could do it automatically using digital signage? What if every time you walked up to the bar, the menu was customized based on what your desires are, based on what your likes are? If you like Diet Pepsi, we're going to show Diet Pepsi. If you like Diet Coke, we're going to show Diet Coke.
That brings up interesting, because restaurants are either one or the other.
Yeah.
Airports are one or the other. There's
what if you like
personal choice is out the window when it comes to Coke,
getting
Pepsi.
strange signals over here. What if you like, ponder this one. What if you like Diet Pepsi and you're in a Coke joint?
You
show them
drink
Diet Coke.
water.
You leave.
You leave. You order Dr. Pepper and you go for the safe play. So what if we could do that? And we thought, man, that's interesting. Could we possibly do that? Is there a way to even make this happen? Is it even possible? Yes, it is. Absolutely. Why? Because aliens, that's why. No, because wireless technology, right? Because of what we're doing with these API calls. And so we came up with a different type of system. We said, well, if we started with audio, how can we move this into multimedia? And how can we do this with video? And how can we do this with digital signage? How can we do this with images and web pages and all kinds of stuff? So that when you sign in, it's got a recommendation for you. Hey, we noticed you like this and this. Today we have this on special. Feel free to try it out. And so that's what we looked at. And the way that this works is very similar to the first set using the Spotify API. But what this does now is it combines it with the keywords or the brands that the restaurant carries or that the business carries. We're going to have some fun with this one afterwards. So basically, if you like one, we can recommend another. Follow me? Pretty cool? All right. Cool story, bro. How about a demo? So what we've done is we've put that into action, and we've tested it, and we've tried it, and we've done a number of different things with it. And so what I'm going to show you is this. I'm not supposed to walk in front of the projector. That. This is a live web page right now. This is running in Chrome. It works very well in Chrome. It's very thin. We've made it so that it can run on a Chromecast key, so you can just take it and deploy it on a Chromecast. This is calling our server. And the way that you invoke it is you go to any web browser and you punch in your authentication credentials, and what it does is it automatically enumerates the screen ties it back into your user account. So I'll leave that one up there so that it knows where it is and it knows where it's placed, location based, restaurant based, etc., etc. So what we're going to do is we're gonna duplicate the user experience here. I don't know if you've seen the SSID. It's called Frontera Scrape Demo. And let's see here. Is the audio turned on? It might be a little loud, so if it is, I apologize. So what I'm going to do, come again?
If it's too loud, you're too old.
Yeah, right. So here's what we're going to do here. So there's no crazy modifications to this iPad mini. All I've done is I've cookies, cleared the cache, and forgotten the wireless network. And I'm going to show you 2 demos on this real quick. So let's see what we got here. I think we're good to go. We're going to turn on our Wi-Fi. We're going to see somewhere in here the Frontera Scrape demo. It's going to ask me for a key. I already stored the key in there. So now I'm signed on to that access point. In a second here, it's going to pop up the login prompt. And this one is just a generic prompt that takes place on that's built-in, integrated to the network, into the AirTight network component there. We're going to sign in with Wi-Fi. We're going to accept the terms and use. Do you guys want to see the terms and use? It's boilerplate, so there's nothing too crazy in there. You're free to change that terms of use, by the way.
Nobody reads it anyways.
Unfortunately. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to sign me in. This is a shadow account that I made for this thing. Because at first I was going to use my own account. I was like,
hey now.
This is not the place to try that.
Yeah, I know. Anybody reading my password?
Yeah.
No? You get the reference? Zero cool.
A quick question on the
Nice. Hang on real quick, because this is all going to take place right now. So what this is doing is it's logging me in to Facebook. And once it logs me into Facebook, it's going to run that scrape in the background. And it knows that I drink Budweiser. So it's going to play a throwback Budweiser commercial for me. You guys remember this one?
Monday, just watching the game, having a buzz.
Wait for it.
So the truth. No. Watching the game, having a buzz. True. True.
Super Bowl, what, 90, 98? So it knows that I drink Budweiser. So it's going to make this recommendation for me. Sorry, I cracked myself up. So now it's made this recommendation and it's played this video based on what my preferences are. And what one more. There's got to be one more in there. So what we've done is we've authorized it to look for the likes, brand likes. And what I'm going to do, you can watch right here. I'm going to go to done. I'm going to forget this network that I'm signed into right there. And then I'm going to go into Safari. I'm going to clear out the cookies and the data. And that's done. So I'm cleared out from there. But let me do one more thing. Just to show you how dynamic and fun this thing is. None of this is hard-coded. It's all dynamic based on a backend. I'll be more than happy to show you guys. I'm going to flip over to the Facebook page of that deal. How am I doing on time? Oof, end. That's how I'm doing on time. Okay. I won't show you the second demo. But basically, the second demo, what it does is I go unlike Budweiser. And it dynamically changes what video it plays based on that information. Because it doesn't follow me as a user. It follows what my likes are on a session-by-session basis. Does that make sense? Go ahead with your question.
On the terms and conditions there, you said you can change them. Can you change them after I accept them without me knowing that you changed them? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure. So I'm going to wrap up real quick. And basically, where does this leave us, right? This has given us the ability to use social media not only to onboard customers, but as a tool to do a lot more with. And this is something that I found out about here at Wireless Field Day. And I said, if I can take that and I can run with it, imagine what you guys can do with it. The killer part here is that this is a single device that contains the social media portion of it, the retail analytic portion of it, the PCI compliance for the transactions that they do on the tablets, the wireless AP portion of it, and the OpEx model, which made it really attractive to the retail customers. And that's awesome. But this is even more awesome because what we're going for here is that you heard, you'll hear everyone talk about single sign-on. Mojo is the dashboard for AirTight. And what that does is it allows you to control
your access devices, full solution of management, your guest management, your analytics, your brand builder, Insta Wi-Fi, and hopefully what we work for someday is a third-party add-on, so that anyone who has an AirTight network who wants to deploy the solution, it's set up and it's ready to go for them. You can go deploy this at your restaurants, at your customers' restaurants, at anyone's restaurants around the way. And we want to make sure that we can integrate that so that you all can take advantage of technology like this without having to go out and develop it yourself and without having to rely on a third-party service. It's something that's integrated similar to the App Store where you can fire it off. So that's it. That's all I got. I appreciate your time. Any questions? I'm totally out of time. I went over. Thanks for letting me talk.
Great stuff. Thanks.
Now you guys are going to